A partisan standoff over health care and spending is threatening to trigger the first U.S. government shutdown in almost 7 years. Now, the government will shut down at 12:01 a.m. Wednesday if the Senate does not pass a House measure extending federal funding for the next 7 weeks. Senate Democrats say they will not vote for this unless Republicans include an extension of expiring health care benefits. Thomas Aiello is the Senior Director of Government Affairs at National Taxpayers Union. Thanks for being with us, Thomas. Let's just start here. For the taxpayers, what would a shutdown mean?
Look, nobody wins in a government shutdown, right? It means federal bureaucrats get paid to stay home and not work. It means our troops at home and abroad don't get paid, but they have to work. It also means permitting can't get approved for critical energy projects across the country. So it really does mean a lot. And, the House of Representatives did their job a few weeks ago, passing a bill. Now it's up to Senate Democrats to see if they want to vote for it and allow government funding to continue.
So let me ask you about the Democrats' requests here. They want to see these tax credits that are set to expire be extended. So what will it mean for taxpayers if those health insurance tax credits aren't extended? If millions of people lose their insurance, wouldn't that also translate to increased costs for the taxpayer?
Well, not necessarily. So what the Senate Democrats are asking for, it's a number of things, not just these temporary Obamacare subsidies, but specific to the subsidies, right? These were subsidies passed in 2021 by Democrats as part of their COVID spending spree. It increased the availability for these Obamacare credits to extremely wealthy people. There's data that shows people making up to $500,000 are receiving these credits. Now, the Congressional Budget Office says millions of people will lose access to these credits as they are, but that's just half of the data. There's data that shows these people are able to go into employee-sponsored healthcare, and they can also get healthcare through the Obamacare exchanges, just at a slightly higher cost. So it's not necessarily true that people are going to be thrown off their healthcare. There are plenty of options for people as well.
But KFF is reporting that ACA marketplace premium payments would more than double next year if those tax credits expire. We should mention that this does get really complicated and in the weeds. But I also want to ask you about something that I think gets lost in these conversations and these fights. I mean, every time this is threatened, and it has been threatened, we've been up against how many government shutdowns in the last 10 years. The thing that every time this is threatened is that continuing resolutions are not how this is supposed to work. The Pew Research Center says Congress hasn't actually passed a full budget with 12 regular appropriations bills on time since 1996. So how do we get back to that and stop coming up against these continuing resolutions and actually get 12 appropriations bills passed?
Yeah, it's such a shame. Congress's job is to pass appropriations bills to fund the government. It's some of their most basic responsibilities. And the House of Representatives, they've actually returned to what the Congress should be doing. They've already passed a number of appropriations bills, but unfortunately, those bills are still sitting over in the Senate. That would fund the government through the end of the next fiscal year. That's very good news. Now, how do we address this continuing resolution, and how do we stop this from happening in the future? Well, there's actually a few bipartisan bills out there, including the Preventing Government Shutdowns Act and the Eliminating Government Shutdowns Act. What those do is, if it's enacted into law, it would put the Congress on a continuing resolution every time there's a lapse in government funding. We think that's a much better approach than this wait to the last minute to try and get something done. And I think it'll work better for taxpayers if there's auto continuing resolutions, no matter who's in power.
And I know that Politico was reporting that there was a little bit of optimism about maybe some kind of compromises as far as this looming government shutdown and coming together. Do you see a path forward here where both sides might get something out of this, or do you think we are headed straight for the shutdown?
Yeah, I think we're headed straight for the shutdown, unfortunately. And I said earlier, no one wins in a government shutdown. Taxpayers, people that rely on government services, and federal workers. So it's very unfortunate. Trying to read the political tea leaves a little bit, I don't really see a short-term conclusion to this. I think the ACA premium battle is going to be part of that negotiation, but I don't think this is going to be fixed, just my personal opinion, in the next couple of weeks. So we'll have to see how all of that shakes out. And again, it's extremely unfortunate. It doesn't have to be this way. I think the Congress should pass a short-term funding bill, keep the government open for a few weeks, buy more time for these appropriations negotiations, and to talk about the ACA premium. But of course, we would like to see the ACA premiums go away. But, Congress needs to negotiate and figure out a path forward on that.
Okay, so if we do go into a shutdown tonight, then what? What will be the first effects that we all feel, everyday Americans feel?
Right away, there won't be too many effects for everyday Americans. Now, of course, if you are a government worker, you wouldn't go to work tomorrow unless you're essential, and there's also the possibility you would miss your paycheck in 2 weeks. None of that is good news for anybody, right? But, more specifically, it would delay the ability to get jobless data that comes out on Thursday. It would delay the Bureau of Labor Statistics from publishing their jobs report on Friday. So these are things that, one, would impact financial markets as well. Though I don't think everyday Americans would feel the full impacts of a government shutdown right away. It takes about 2 to 3 weeks in order for everyday Americans to see the impact of a government shutdown. Hopefully it doesn't last that long.
All right, Thomas Aiello, Senior Director of Government Affairs at the National Taxpayers Union. Thank you so much.
Thank you.